My name is Ron Dutton. I am the archivist for the BC Gay and Lesbian Archives. The Archives is an attempt to, as fully as possible, document the ongoing evolution of the quote-unquote queer community. So the Archives was founded in 1976 at the height of the gay liberation movement in an attempt to try to document those momentous legal and political changes that were happening at that time. I've been politically active since my university days, and so was very engaged with the gay liberation movement in Vancouver in its early days. And the people engaged in that were enormously busy. They were running newspapers, and they were holding rap sessions, and they were writing manifestos. So there's all this political activity going on, and a real sense that history's being written at this moment. We are changing the world, and nobody's recording that. And as a historian and an archivist, I knew how important it was to grab that story while it was happening, because it gets lost. And the organizations engaged in it weren't keeping records of their own activities. So I started photographing events and collecting brochures and handouts and posters, and began to collect that story, and it simply grew from there. Until gay liberation came along in the mid-1970s, gay people lived lives of necessary anonymity. It was a toxic environment. They risked a lot by being identified as gay. So their story is not told. How did you live through World War II? How did you live through the Depression? How did you make a decent life for yourself in an environment where you couldn't be identified, or you risked so much by being identified? So I'm passionate about trying to collect that story, trying to reconstruct those lives and how people lived their lives and the kinds of things that they went through. Because for one thing, it's an explanation of why we have to go after our rights now, and why we have pursued those rights so rigorously. And it's important to me that story be rescued, and it has to be rescued as it's happening, or it's lost. The Archives is somewhere in the realm of 750,000 items now, and growing largely annually. In the long term, obviously it is not optimally placed in a private home. It should be in a public space where because that proclaims its value and its importance within the community, and its visibility becomes that much greater. At the moment, there isn't a place for that. The Gay and Lesbian Center is full. There is a fundraising effort happening at the moment to get a purpose-built community center, and the Archives would be ideally placed in that kind of an environment. I'm passionate about the recovery of our story and of ensuring that our story remains within the community. By that I mean that we tell that story, that it isn't some academic institution or someone outside the community who is trying to dictate what the story is. It needs to remain with us. So recovering that early history and ensuring that there's a full record maintained of what's going on today, and that is told by our community, is hugely important to me. Our rights are never necessarily secure. It's a fight that we continue, and we'll have to be vigilant about for the endlessly foreseeable future. And I want to be there documenting that growth and change and hopefully victories.